Welcome. In this session, we will be talking about climatic classification. Now, most of the students working on climatology find this to be a very difficult topic. The only reason being they are confused with how to remember the symbols and the different symbols for Köppen, Thorndike and Trivartha. We will be trying to solve this problem in a very simple way. So, let's start with first what is a climatic classification. Now, across the globe, if I talk about, we have numerous parameters that affect the climate of a region. Now, as we have already discussed in the previous class, weather and climate are different phenomena. Climate is an average of the weather activities that take place over a period of 30 years or more. Now, we can classify climate based on three categories. That is the empirical classification, genetic classification and applied classification. Under empirical classification, we talk about observable features. These observable features can be in form of temperature and precipitation mainly. And the best example to work on empirical classification was propounded by Köppen. The next classification is the genetic classification. The genetic classification focuses on the cause. So cause, and the main idea was laid down by Trivartha. It talked about the implications of solar radiation, pressure differences. So that was under the genetic classification, and finally the applied classification, where the application of the process of classification was discussed, and this was laid forward by Thorndike. So these were the three major categories under which we will study the climatic classification. So in this class we will be covering one classification under each category. So we will be covering Köppen's classification under empirical classification, Trivartha under genetic and Thorndike under applied classification. So let's first start with the Köppen's classification. As you can see in this map here, if I try to zoom it out here, you have the one marked with green and blue here, and the same green and blue climate can be seen here. Now across the globe, if I talk about, we have similar climates in this region and this region. What does that mean? Despite of the geographical distances they occur, they have a kind of similar climate. And this is what Köppen tried to explain. In his classification, Köppen tried to explain in very simple terms, if we are working on the globe and this is the equator and this is the poles, as we move away from the poles, we will start working on the alphabets. So we will work with A, B, C, D and E, and that's on either side as we move from equator to poles. So as we run from equator to poles, we will shift from letter A to E. Now the best way to remember here is, if I write A, B, C, D and E, E here denotes poles and this E for equator would come under A. So it's a kind of crisscross relationship that you can remember, that A would lie at equator and E would lie at poles, and these two E would be crisscross. Now all the Köppen classification that we would be starting with would start with these fundamental 5 first order categorization. So Köppen classified his classification into 3 orders: the primary order, secondary order and the tertiary order. The primary order included these 5 letters. He gave his first classification in 1884, and then there was revision for the Köppen's classification that was done in 1918 and 1936. And later on, it was Gregor, along with whom Köppen gave Gregor-Müller classification, and that classification focused on vegetation as one of an important aspect to understand the climatic variations in the region. So now let's start with the first category under Köppen's classification. Now here all the 5 categories that we discussed, A, B, C, D and E, vary by latitude. There is just one category that he defined, which was H, and that varied by altitude. That's height above the sea level. And this H was known as highland, and this was a kind of undifferentiated highland climate. The best example I can say is Leh Ladakh is a cold desert. On the other hand, you would have regions of Sikkim and northeast India with areas of heavy rainfall. So there can be contrast climate on highlands, but different highlands behave in different manner. So therefore he categorized highlands as undifferentiated highlands and the remaining 5 categories. So E is the polar. The polar regions, he said, will never have any warmest month which will have a temperature of more than 10 degrees Celsius. So any month in the poles will have a temperature of less than 10 degrees Celsius. The tropical region is a region of very high temperature and high humidity near to the equatorial belt, and the coolest month would be more than 18 degrees Celsius. Then you have dry climate. The dry climate he classified again into 2, that's the desert and the steppes climate. The desert is the totally arid climate and steppes is the semi-arid climate. Finally he talked about mesothermal and microthermal. Now there is very less variation. Mesothermal, since it is closer to the equator, there would be a coldest month which would have a temperature of more than 0 degree. But since microthermal is near to the poles, it will have coolest month with less than 0 degree Celsius and warmest month more than 10 degrees Celsius. So microthermal, which is D, is closer to the poles and therefore the coolest month would be less than 0 degree Celsius. This was the primary classification that was given. Now this is the second letter classification given by Köppen, and these second letters are merged with the primary letters. So for example, with B we apply S and W. So we are marking the second order codes and we are seeing these second order codes apply to which primary order. So S and W apply to B. B is the dry climate that we saw, and BS is the steppes and BW is the arid climate. So you have the semi-arid and the arid climate. Now similarly, the E region, that's the polar region, is again classified into 3, T, F and M. T is where the hottest month is between 0 to 10 degrees. F is the hottest month less than 0 degrees, and M is the region of abundant precipitation. So F is, I can say, a region of ice caps nearly. Then within C you have regions which are dry in summer. So S means dry in summer, W means wet, dry in winters. So W stands for winter and we are talking about dry. S stands for summer and we are talking about dry. So dry winters is W, dry summers is S. M, it is universally area of heavy precipitation. So capital M would be region of abundant precipitation in polar areas, and a small m would be monsoon climate. So this monsoon climate is seen as in A. So under A we have AF, AW and AM. AF is the tropical rainforest, AM is the M for monsoon, so monsoonal climate, and AW is the savanna climate. That's dry winters. And finally you have F, which is wet climate, and precipitation occurs nearly all months and there is no dry season that can be seen. F is again applicable to A, C and D. So as we classified AF, that is tropical rainfall. So here you will have rainfall throughout the year. So that was the second order classification. Now third order classification. Under BW we talked about the deserts. BS was steppes or the grassland savanna climate, and BW was the desert climate. Now BWH would be hot desert and BWK would be cold desert. So we can classify hot desert with a temperature of more than 18 degrees and cold desert with a temperature of less than 18 degrees. Then we have simple ABCD. Again you have the capital ABCD in the primary order and the tertiary order has a small ABCD. The only difference here is all these are applicable to microthermal and mesothermal zones. So A is hot summer, B is moderate summer, C is short summer and D is cold winter. So as we move from A to D, it's based on the temperature that we are moving. The capital A to D was based on the latitude. However, the small A to D is based on the temperature. So similar to that, you have hot summer, moderate summer, cold summer and very cold winters. So that's the basic classification that we try to understand, which was laid forward by Köppen. Now as we will see here in our further slides, we have world maps for various regions and we will try to understand the various regions on the map. So first is the tropical rainforest. As I said, it's a region of heavy rainfall, high temperature, high humidity, commonly seen in Amazonian region, Congo Basin and regions of New Guinea and Indonesian islands. That is the AF region or the tropical rainforest. The humidity is high with around nearly 80% of the region with high humidity. Now next slide that we will have all the three regions, that is AF, AW and AM. So AF is marked with yellow, that we have already talked about the rainforest areas. Then we have AM, that's the light orange, and that's the monsoonal land. And so you have the monsoonal region here. And finally you have the AW, that's the savanna region. And this savanna region is mainly the grassland region. The dry areas see a lot of trade winds that blow in this region. We will be talking about trade winds as we talk about pressure and the more topics in climatology. We will understand the wind patterns. We will see why trade winds are seen in the equatorial belt. So this is a region of trade winds commonly seen along the North South America, Middle Africa, parts of Southeast Asia and the Indonesian and the Melanesian island groups here. So these are the three major classification under A. Now let's move on to B. So you have the climate B, that is dry climate, and along with dry we are talking about this chart, that is BWH, that is dry desert which is hot. So these are the regions which is marked by hot desert, and in the next slide, in this slide we have the regions that is marked by cold deserts, that is BWK. So we are trying to understand the B regions. So as we saw, A regions were close to the equatorial region, and beyond the A regions we had the B regions. So these are the B areas that we have seen. Now let's move on to C. These are the regions, these are the B regions of savanna climate. So those were the B regions that were dry, and now we are talking about B steppes, that is savanna climate. That is a climate between BW and anything between A, C and D. So that is the savanna climate mainly seen in the grasslands. Beyond this you have the sea climate. Now sea climate we call it Mediterranean climate. Now sea climate can also be called as dry winters, which is CS, and you have the dry summers and dry winters. So both of them dry winters and dry summers, and both of these climates are tropical rainy in nature, nearly seen around the Mediterranean Sea, eastern parts of United States, southern parts of Brazil and Patagonia, and then you have regions in southern regions south of Africa and Eastern Asia, that's China and Korea. Then you have the D climatic classification. The D climatic classification we talk about, it is a snowy forest with dry winters. So with dry winters we call it DW, and then we have a snowy forest which is moist or with rainfall, which is DF. So we have the D region, which is microthermal, that is seen around the northern parts of Europe and US and Canada, and then finally you have the tundra type of climate which is seen in the northernmost area. This is the tundra belt. Tundra belt, as we said, is again classified into T, F and M based on the amount of precipitation that have and the temperature that is here. So ET is the lower part of the tundra region, EF is the ice caps, and EM is the monsoonal climate or region with, I could say, heavy rainfall. So this was the basic classification that was propounded by Köppen. If we want to summarize it, we can draw a graph where we can say you have a variation of temperature from low to high and precipitation from low to high. If we cross tabulate it, we will see subarctic tundra and ice caps are seen in the regions of low precipitation and low temperature. The regions of high temperature and high precipitation occur to wet tropics and humid subtropical areas. On the other hand, if the temperature is high and precipitation is low, you will have dry desert and dry steppe climate that is found. So this is how we understand, or we can summarize, the Köppen's classification. Now let's move on to the next classification, that's the Thornwitz classification. To understand Thornwitz classification, first of all we need to understand a lot of physical sciences. Thornwitz gave or formulated his water budget technique, and under that technique he tried to assess the need for water demand. So when he was trying to understand the need for water demand, he gave his theory in two phases. The first was the 1931 theory, and there was a modification of the theory that was propounded in 1948. Under the first theory, he gave two terminologies, that is precipitation effectiveness and thermal efficiency. So precipitation efficiency was given as a ratio of precipitation to evaporation and was given by this formula, and then he gave a precipitation efficiency index, which was a summation of PE values over the year or monthly accumulated over the year, and that was the PE index. Based on the precipitation, he classified into 5 major categories, that was again A, B, C, D and E, A being the wetmost and E being the drymost, and these 5 categories were subdivided into 4 sections. Again, S stands for dry in summer, W stands for dry in winters, then you have D stands for dry in all seasons, and R stands for abundant in all seasons. So rather than M, that was in Köppen's classification, which was for abundant rainfall, he moved on to R. S and W remain the same, and if it is deficit rainfall in all seasons, he marked it as D. So these are the classification that he did based on the precipitation effectiveness. Then next he talked about temperature efficiency. He said temperature efficiency is again the ratio of temperature to evaporation, and the TE index is given as a summation over 12 months, and rather than marking the letters as A, B, C and D as he did in the case of precipitation, he marked the letters as A dash to F dash in case of temperature. A dash being the region closer to the tropics, so it was tropical, and as you move away it was E dash and F dash. So A dash is tropical, then you have mesothermal, microthermal, taiga, tundra and perpetual frost. Based on these two, the precipitation efficiency and temperature efficiency, he laid forward 120 climatic zones, out of which on real earth or real world he could find only 32 climatic conditions. So he marked those 32 climatic conditions, and when he tried to map his PE index by TE index, that's the precipitation efficiency and the thermal efficiency, he said the regions from D to F and A are absolute in terms of thermal efficiency. So they are just governed by thermal efficiency. However, the region between B and C are governed by variations in precipitation. So you have the rainforest to the desert region that can be seen only in the range of B to C, that's only in the mesothermal and the microthermal zone you will have the variations of A to E. That was the basic idea that Thornwitz tried to lay down. However, in 1948 he believed that his theory of the precipitation efficiency and thermal efficiency was not enough to help understand the concept of climate of a given region. He said the climate is governed by potential evapotranspiration, and this potential evapotranspiration is a function of evaporation as well as transpiration from the plants. So he said that both these factors determine the climate of a region. Based on this, he laid down the potential evapotranspiration index with this formula and these values, and he then laid down two index, that's the aridity index, which was denoted by deficit by potential evapotranspiration, and the humidity index, and based on the aridity and the humidity index he laid down the soil moisture index, and this soil moisture index was a main determinant in his theory. This soil moisture determinant or this soil moisture index initially was humidity index minus 0.6 of aridity index, which was given by this formula. However, in 1955 he simplified this 0.6 and laid down a common value of 100 for both the values, and he said that soil moisture index could be given by this formula. He then marked out that in the cases or in the regions where potential evapotranspiration is more than precipitation, in those cases soil moisture would either be 0 or negative, and that would be governed by the aridity index. On the other hand, if precipitation is more than the transpiration and evaporation, you would have positive soil moisture and you will understand the humidity rate. Now, moist climate, he explained, could be assessed by the aridity index, because aridity index is used to intensify the drought conditions, and that helps you distinguish the deficiency in winter months and summer months. So, according to him, moist climate could be determined by aridity index and dry climate could be determined by moisture index. So, this is how he laid forward the modifications in 1948. Based on these modifications, he further divided the regions into these categories. He marked A as perhumid and E is arid, similar to what he did in 1931 classification. And then he marked B and C regions. He further subdivided those, and then he used further symbols. These symbols were meant for dry climate, that is C, D and E, and these symbols were used for moist climate, that is A, B and C2. So, based on these categories, he further classified the world into different climatic regions. Now, what are the limitations and the drawbacks that you can understand for Köppen's and Thornwitt's classification? So, let's start with Köppen's classification. Köppen's classification, the best advantage was it was a simple 3-letter classification system. It was much simpler, no mathematics was involved, no calculations was involved, and it directly varied with the temperature and precipitation. So, that was the merit for Köppen's classification. However, there were certain demerits for Köppen's classification. The first demerit was it simply relied on temperature and precipitation. In simple terms, I can say what was the merit eventually became the demerit for Köppen's classification. There was the cause of classification was unknown. There was no reason why you are classifying climates based on certain features. There was no particular formula that was given to understand the various climatic classification. So, these were certain demerits of the Köppen's classification. Now, let's jump on to the Thornwitt's classification. When I talk about Thornwitt's classification, the major merit was it was similar to Köppen's classification, but it involved calculations and mathematical relations, and that led lot of geoscientists to believe that Thornwitt's theory is much more accurate and much more precise as compared to Köppen's theory. The next benefit of this theory was this was applied to larger areas. However, there were certain demerits of Thornwitt's classification. The demerits was definitely it was involving calculations, so some people liked it and another sect of human geographers opposed it. So, one of the major opposition was it involved lot of calculations. It was apt for the regions of North America where he classified the climate, but it could not classify the tropical and the subtropical climate, because in his first 1931 index he classified only the B and C region, the region between B and C, based on the precipitation effectiveness or efficiency. The region A, that was tropical, was left and it was not further classified based on the precipitation efficiency. So, that was one of the major drawbacks or one of the major critiques that this theory faced. However, there were similarities to Köppen's theory. The first similarity was it used letter and symbols similar to what Köppen did. Then it was based on vegetation pattern that was seen. The only difference was it initially was based on precipitation efficiency and thermal efficiency, and later it involved potential evapotranspiration, which was not part of the Köppen's theory. So, based on that, he tried to, that was the thermal efficiency, potential evaporation, and then he classified the humid provinces, which was done under the thermal efficiency index by Thornwitt. Now, finally, you have the Trivartha's classification. Trivartha's classification, as we talked about, involved genetic classification. So, it was based on the cause, and he tried to understand the cause behind the precipitation and the rainfall, the precipitation and the temperature, and he laid down the various sections again marked from A to F, but these were much more simpler as compared to Köppen, because these involve the terminologies that were later on used to demarcate Earth. So you have the tropical belt, you have the temperate belt, you have the subtropical belt, and so on, and the polar regions. So this terminology that Trivartha used was much simpler as compared to Köppen's terminology. He classified only dry regions based on precipitation, the rest of the regions were classified based on temperature. So the tropical region that he classified had a poleward boundary with these conditions, and he said there are two regions, AR and AW. AR is the tropical wet area and the AW is the tropical wet and dry area. Now similar to this, he classified BW and BS. Those were exactly same to what Köppen did. So one was dry steppes and another was dry arid areas. Under C, he classified it into two, and his main classification was CFW and CS. Now CS is the tropical dry summer and CFW is the tropical subtropical humid. Okay, so this is the subtropical humid with dry winters, and this is dry summer. D he classified into two, that is DO and DM. DO and DC. DO and DM are one and the same. So you have DO, that is oceanic, temperate oceanic, and then you have temperate continental climate. Then you had the E, that was the boreal climate. You have the supercontinental climate that was seen here, and finally the F was again classified into two, that was FT and FI. FT was the polar tundra and Fi was the polar ice caps which are fully laden with ice. So that was Trivartha's classification. Trivartha's classification, the major merit was, it was again based on temperature and precipitation. It did not involve any mathematical calculation. It was much simpler. The another benefit was, it was a simple combination of letters and alphabets, and this was very much similar to what Köppen gave, but it was highly simplified than Köppen's classification. It was not a 3-letter classification or 3-system classification as given by Köppen, and the boundaries that were demarcated for these subzones were based on the climatic average of 30 years, and that was the only drawback that these classification faced, because 30 years is a long duration and there can be numerous climatic variations that can be seen within the span of 30 years. So with this we cover the three major climatic classifications, the Köppen, Thornweyt and Trivartha. We will be covering more topics related to climatology in the further sessions. You can subscribe to our channel for any further updates. Have a good day ahead.